gentlemen, Mr. John Love.
Fellow Toastmasters, good afternoon. When I was in my early teens, I became very interested in why some people succeeded and some people didn't. I wonder why some people lived in palatial mansions and other people lived in the houses, like the ones in my neighborhood. I wonder why some people enjoyed rich lifestyles and drove nice cars, as opposed to the car that we had. The car that we had burned about as much oil as it did gas. And I wonder why people called America the land of opportunity and came here from all over the country, all over the nation, or excuse me, all over the world, when I saw so many people struggling from paycheck to paycheck. Well, I wanted very badly to succeed. If I heard my father say it once, I heard him say it 200 times. Those who go to college succeed, and those who don't. So I went to college, thinking they would teach me how to achieve success. Freshman, sophomore, and junior years came and went, and it didn't happen. And I thought, well, certainly they're going to teach me this in my senior year, and that didn't happen either. Also, when I was going to college, I met my ex-wife. Now I look back and think, gee, what a special 4 years that was. 2 days after I got out of college, I went to my local bookstore. I walked in the front door and I saw this lady standing behind the counter. And folks, I'm just here to tell you, I was just ecstatic there. There was nobody else around. I walked up to the counter and I leaned over and I whispered, and I said, do you have a section of books that teaches you how to achieve success? She got this big smile on her face and said, yes, we do. Follow me. So she took me over to the section where these success books were. There they all were, neatly tucked into the shelves, just like the books in the library, with just a spine showing. However, right there on a dedicated table, there were several stacks of this book, titled Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. They had the front of the book exposed as well as the back of the book. And I thought, well, if they think this much of this book, well, who am I to question? So I bought the book. And you might think that I immediately took it home and started reading it. Not true. As soon as I walked out of the bookstore and got into my car, I started reading it. I read chapter 1 and I began reading chapter 2. And then within a few pages of chapter 2, I saw the title, The Formula for Success. I was blown away. 21 years old, and I had never heard of a formula for success. Nobody had ever told me there was a formula for success. I took the book home and I finished it within a week and went back and bought another book and finished it within a week and went back and bought another and finished it within a week. And since that time, I've read over 80 books on achieving success. Most of those I've read 2 and 3 and 4 times. Think and Grow Rich, I've read over 20 times, and I still get something new out of it every time I read it. I have listened to literally thousands of hours of tapes and CDs on achieving success, read hundreds of articles, gone to many success seminars, and sat down with numerous people and asked them asked them how they achieved their success. About 10 years ago, I was listening to a success guru speak, and he pointed out what he called the chronology of achieving success in 4 one-word questions. And here they are. One-word question number 1 is why? Well, what's your purpose for achieving success? What are your reasons? Most success gurus say that having a strong purpose is the beginning of all success. Most success gurus say that having a strong purpose is the beginning of all success because they have not pumped it out. The beginning of all success is conception. Your conception. At conception, free of charge, God gave you an amazing foundation. He blessed you with the seeds of greatness. He blessed you with, you were conceived with the seeds of greatness. You were conceived to win. Every great thing that has ever been built was built on a great foundation. You were designed to move forward. You were designed to move up. And that is the beginning of all success and the first step. So what is the second step? Well, you tell me. When did you start to dream? When did you start to dream of becoming a doctor? When did you start to dream of becoming an astronaut? When did you start to dream of becoming a rock star? Now, not everybody who has ever succeeded became a doctor or an astronaut or a rock star, but what does a doctor, an astronaut, and a rock star have in common? Greatness. When we were young, we dreamed of greatness, and as I've told so many people so many times, if there is one thing that differentiates the successful from the not so successful, is that the successful never gave up on their childhood dreams. That's the second step. And the third step comes in our preteen and teen years, and that is when a strong purpose is formed and is developed. One word question number 2 is the what. In other words, what vehicle are you going to use to take you there? Most people use entrepreneurship. One word question number 3 is how. How will you do it? What are your steps? What's your methodology? Did you know that every book ever written on success was written on one word question? The one word question, how? They write number 3 assuming you're going to bring number 1 and number 2 to the table. And one word question number 4 was when. When are you going to get the show on the road? When are you going to get started? When I read this chronology, it was eye-opening. I'd never heard it put that way before. And so, it was just, I mean, it really made an impression on me. And so, what it did, more than anything, it made me realize, see, all this time I've been asking successful people how they achieve their success. So it made me realize I've been skipping a couple steps. So I started asking successful people why they achieve their success. Oh boy. When you ask a successful person how they achieve their success, it really is not for any intents and purposes a personal question. But when you ask a successful person why they achieve their success, well, maybe, just maybe, that you just crossed the line. But I'm a lot of things, but I am not shy. You would not believe the looks of shock I have gotten. Why shock? Because nobody's ever asked them that question before. But I'm very happy to say that most have tried to respectfully answer my question. Some knew why they were driven, and some didn't. Fully 20% did not know why they were driven. They just knew they were driven. Another 20% gave me this perfunctory, sounds good response. But the remaining 60% knew why they were driven, and they shared that with me as to why. And here they are. Reason number 1 is because they knew they could. They knew they had the potential and capability, and what a burden it is knowing you've got the potential and capability of executing a worthy ideal, making something excellent out of your life and not doing it. It's a heavy burden that eats away at a person and nags at a person until they get started. However, according to Henry David Thoreau, most never get started because he says most people lead lives of quiet desperation and die with their music still in them. Let's talk about that statement for a few minutes. It has 2 parts. Most people lead lives of quiet desperation, that's part 1. And part 2 is, and die with their music still in them. Let's talk about part 2 first. It does not matter how much music you die with, you're still dead. What part 2 does is... This is not a humor speech. What part 2 does is it explains part 1. If I came to Mary Frances and I said, Mary Frances, you know, most people lead lives of quiet desperation, and I just stopped and walked away, well, you would think I was crazy. But if I said most people lead lives of quiet desperation and die with their music still in them, well, you would get the picture. That desperation is because they see the nice cars and the nice lifestyles that people are leading and living, and they know they've got the potential and capability, but never got started. That desperation is the gap between what a person has accomplished and what they know they can accomplish. About 6 months ago, I was having lunch with John Morris, one of our resident successful attorneys. Little did he know he was going to be my next victim. I said, John, you graduated from law school and then you passed the bar. At which time he stopped me and he said in his most humblest John Morris voice, I not only passed the Massachusetts bar, but I also passed the Florida bar. To which I said, John, that's truly amazing. You must have been driven. What was driving you? John said without hesitation, he said, I knew I had the gift of communication. And with that gift, I knew I could help people. And there it was. John Morris succeeded because he knew he could. Reason number 1 why people succeed is because they know they can. Reason number 2, folks, this is such a no-brainer. Reason number 2 why people succeed is because of the way achieving success makes you feel. You know, everything that we value in life, we value because of the way it makes us feel. That pecking order, that things are in, they're in that order because the way they make you feel. That man or woman that's in your life is there because the way they make you feel. That food you eat is there because the way it makes your taste buds feel. Come on, fellow Toastmasters. We're members of Toastmasters because of the way it makes us feel. You know, you all probably had some kind of brush with achieving success when you were teenagers. Maybe you did some chores around the house. You cut a neighbor's yard or did some babysitting, and you felt the joy and exhilaration of that money being laid in your hand. You felt the joy and exhilaration of saving it and watching it grow. You felt the joy and exhilaration of buying something nice for yourself or somebody else. And you felt the joy and exhilaration and fulfillment of the way that achieving success makes you feel. Reason number 3 why people achieve success is because there is a subset of people in our population who know that if they did not achieve success, that they would be miserable, and miserable to everybody around them. My wife caught wind that I was doing this study. I tried to hide it from her, but she heard me asking a successful person one day why they achieved their success, and later on said, okay, what's with that? And I had to spill the beans. So she looked at me and she goes, all right, bucko, let me ask you, why have you achieved your success? And without thinking, without blinking, it rolled off my tongue. I said I knew that if I didn't, I'd be miserable and miserable to everybody around me. She hesitated for a few seconds and her eyes got wide and she started nodding her head because she knows me. There is a subset in our population, as I mentioned, that knows that if they didn't, they'd be miserable and miserable with everybody around them. They know what they want out of life and they know what makes them miserable. Fellow Toastmasters, let me share this with you. As I mentioned to you earlier, you were conceived with the seeds of greatness. You were not conceived with the seeds of mediocrity. Reason number 4 why people succeed is because they cannot live that way, the way they lived in their childhood. They cannot live that way as adults. Oprah Winfrey was born into poverty on a dirt road in rural Mississippi. She was raped when she was 8 years old. She ran away from home when she was 13 and pregnant when she was 14. She faced gender bias because she was female and racial bias because she was black. You've seen her interview numerous people. I've seen Oprah interviewed, and she was talking about her childhood. And she said, the pain from my childhood, I could not live like that. I knew I had to succeed as an adult. Reason number 4 why people succeed is because they couldn't live the way they did in their childhood. Reason number 5, and perhaps the most popular reason why people achieve success, is seeking relief from pain. I have this term that I call a scarlet moment. If you recall in Gone with the Wind, when just after the war, and Scarlett was behind her house, digging through the dirt and soil, trying to find something to eat, and she was on her knees crying when she comes across what looks to be a carrot, and she pulls it out of the ground and brushes the dirt off of it and eats it, and then she stands up and she clenches her fist and she says, as God is my witness, as God is my witness, I will get through this. And when I do, neither my kin nor myself will ever be hungry again. If I have to lie, if I have to cheat, if I have to steal, if I have to kill, I will never be hungry again. God is my witness. That's what I call a scarlet moment. When humiliation or some negative situation is so intense, so degrading, so bitter, that we make a firm contract with ourselves that no matter what, we will never face that situation. No matter what it takes, we will never face that situation again. In 1901, Angelo Siciliano moved from Italy to New York with his family. In 1902, the 130-pound Angelo was sitting on the beach at Coney Island when a bully passed by and kicked sand in his face. Sitting there in the midst of this humiliation, Angelo had a scarlet moment. With the commitment that this would never happen to him again, he started working out and developed himself into what was reputed at the day to be the best physical specimen there was. You women would refer to him as a hunk. He had a scarlet moment, and he began developing his and recording his workout regimen and developed that into a multi-million-dollar business and changed his name to none other than Charles Atlas. A number of months ago, our own Anna got up and spoke to us, and she talked about the love of her grandfather and how he mistreated her when she was a child, and how she longed for his support, and no matter what she accomplished, he never did acknowledge her. And she talked of the pain of that. And today, Anna's very successful. I was raised in a small town on the outskirts of Birmingham, Alabama. I can't stand up here and tell you in all veracity that I came from the wrong side of the tracks simply because there were no railroad tracks in my town. However, there was a high school. And on one side of the high school, that's where the rich people lived. And on the other side of the high school, that's where the rest of us lived. The rich kids would drive their new Corvettes and new Firebirds to school, but I'm here to tell you that I went to school in my own sports car. It was yellow. You call it a school bus. And some days when I would get off that school bus, the rich kids would scoff and they would make fun of the way I dressed. And they scoffed and made fun of the neighborhood in which I was from. I had my fair share of scarlet moments. So anyway, let's take away some positives out of this. Let me share some happy thoughts with you. Happy thought number one: the cause is never as long as the effect. In Anna's case, her pain lasted from 6 to 21 years. That's short term. The effect is long term. She's been successful, is successful, and will be successful for a very long time. Number two, happy thought number two, is the cause is never as intense as the effect is joyful. You know, when I was in high school, my mother repeatedly, I was a C student, and when I bring my report card home, she'd repeatedly call me stupid and call me a dumb bunny and said I'd never amount to a hill of beans. Her words hurt. The words by the rich kids, they hurt. But that hurt was never as intense and never as joyful or fulfilling as, going into an adult and becoming successful. And happy thought number three is this: forgive those people that have done you wrong. A lot of people like to quote the Bible and say that the Bible says forgive and forget. It doesn't say that. The Bible says forgive. God gave you a memory for a reason. You should forgive because it's good for you. Because forgiveness is one of the greatest gifts that you can ever give yourself. Mr. Toastmaster?